down close to freezing, to 3 or 4 Celsius. That's in towns and cities. A bit milder across the southwest, where there will again be a fairly noticeable breeze blowing tomorrow. And it will be a bit breezier around the coasts of Scotland, perhaps just a little bit of ha on the east coast at first, and maybe some cloudy skies to begin with across Shetland. But generally for Scotland and Northern Ireland, far less in the way of cloud tomorrow compared to today. Could start a bit drab over parts of the Midlands, maybe northern England, some mist, low cloud, bit of fog here, maybe East Anglia too, but any mist and fog should clear certainly by mid-morning. And then we're looking at, well, spectacular spring sunshine, really almost wall to wall. There will be a chilly breeze blowing across southern England and South Wales, and a bit breezy across western Scotland, Northern Ireland, and perhaps still on the east coast too. And if that breeze is coming in from the North Sea, you'll notice it. Temperatures pegged back as a result. But inland, in the sunshine, 17, 18 degrees, maybe a touch warmer across the northwest of Scotland. Similar day on Wednesday. Again, most places fine and with lots and lots of sunshine. Still a bit breezy in the south and a bit more of a breeze maybe on some of those North Sea coasts. Just a threat of some of that low cloud drifting in. That's going to be more of a feature later in the week, but look at that. Plenty of sunshine and feeling warmer for most Wednesday and Thursday.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Giuffre, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys Tonight. Has there been an excessive focus on Ramadan and Eid this year? And
close your eyes and in the night
British MPs lobby for a new airport to be built in Pakistan. Meanwhile, in their own constituencies, people's bins aren't being taken out. Also,
can you imagine what that attack has done for me? That is an example of harassment and bullying.
Prince Harry is accused of bullying and harassment as his charity scandal gets even worse. And is your toddler transphobic? Tonight I reveal that children as young as 3 are being suspended from nurseries for being anti-LGBT+.
What? Okay.
The new expenses scandal. A Labour MP claimed £900 from taxpayers for her cockapoo dog to live with her. And Labour says that they've deported more migrants than ever before. But do you trust them to control our borders? And do you remember this from America? Elon Musk, SpaceX, this amazing feat of human endeavour conquering space.
We're continuing to get good call-outs on the first stage performance so far.
Let's just check in and see how the Europeans are getting on. On my panel tonight is Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, ex-Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser and former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry. And why bother paying for a train ticket these days? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Is Tahir Ali an MP for Birmingham or Mirpur in Pakistan? Next.
Good evening. The top stories. The Sentencing Council is to pause the controversial 2-tier sentencing guidelines immediately, pending the introduction of emergency legislation which the government is due to introduce to Parliament in the next 3 weeks. The Sentencing Council was due to bring in new rules around how judges should determine punishment for people from ethnic minority backgrounds. The new law to end 2-tier justice will be published tomorrow. It's to stop 2-tier sentencing rules discriminating against white men. However, that law won't be enforced until after Easter, as it won't have cleared both the Commons and the House of Lords. The Prime Minister has urged more than 40 countries to work together to stop people smuggling gangs and treat them in a similar way to terrorists. The UK and other countries affected by people smuggling must work together, the Prime Minister said in a landmark summit aimed at cracking down on illegal migration. Countries including Albania, Vietnam and Iraq, from where migrants have travelled to the UK, are joining the talks alongside representatives from France, the US and China. Sir Keir Starmer added, since the government came to power, Labour have returned 24,000 people with no right to be in the country. The National Crime Agency's released footage of key arrests, including those linked to a major Syrian organised crime group responsible for smuggling at least 750 migrants into the UK and Europe. The Home Secretary says the gangs are undermining UK national security.
And we have countries from Vietnam, Iraq, Nigeria, as well as our nearest neighbours across Europe, France, Germany, and countries like the US and China, all facing real challenges from criminal gangs that try to exploit our borders in order to make huge profits, but agreeing today new law enforcement cooperation, intelligence sharing to go after these vile criminal gangs and to tackle this terrible trade in human beings.
In other news, a young boy who'd been playing with a girl near the River Thames claimed he tried to hold her hand after she entered the water, but it slipped, according to a resident near the scene. An extensive search is underway to find the 11-year-old girl after she fell into the Thames water. The Metropolitan Police said it was called around 1:15 p.m. yesterday to report the girl had entered the river near the Barge House Causeway near London City Airport. All emergency services are forming a large-scale response to the incident. And finally, Marine Le Pen has attacked her ban from running for public office for 5 years as a political decision by the judge. The National Rally leader also accused the court of trying to block her candidacy for the 2027 French presidential election, calling the ban worth of authoritarian regimes. She's been barred from running for public office for 5 years with immediate effect after being found guilty of misappropriating funds from the European Union. A French court has sentenced Le Pen to a 4-year jail sentence, of which 2 of those will be suspended. Her lawyer says she will appeal against the court's decision. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Why on earth are British MPs campaigning for a new airport to be built in Pakistan? Over the weekend, about 20 MPs demanded that the Pakistani government builds a new airport in Mirpur because their constituents shouldn't have to put up with taking a long-haul flight to Islamabad, then travelling 3 hours by car to get to Mirpur. Let's just break down the lunacy of this. So firstly, Mirpur is about 5,500 miles away from Britain. One of the MPs, Labour's Tahir Ali, has a constituency in Birmingham, a city where bins are currently not being collected.
Hey, janaab, Alam Rock, Zindabad, kya baat hai? Wah, wah, wah. Ye janaab, Alam Rock, dekh sakte hain.
41% of children in Birmingham are living in relative poverty. There is a pothole on a Midlands road that has been there longer than some of the people locked up in the local prison. So far, Tahir Ali's major contributions as an MP appear to be calling for blasphemy laws in Britain.
Last year, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted a resolution condemning the desecration of religious texts, including the Quran. Will the Prime Minister commit to introducing measures to prohibit the desecration of all religious texts and the prophets of the Abrahamic religions?
He also said that Rishi Sunak had blood on his hands over Gaza.
Therefore, is it now not the time for the Prime Minister to admit that he has the blood of thousands of innocent people on his hands, and for him to commit to demanding an immediate ceasefire and an ending of UK's arms trade with Israel?
And now he's calling for a new airport in Pakistan. Magic. The second bit of nuttery here. Mirpur is, sadly, where many members of the Pakistani rape gangs reportedly came from. So, you know, those groups of men who've been raping and abusing predominantly working-class white girls on an industrial scale right across Britain. There is an argument, with that in mind, to suggest that maybe we should build an airport in Mirpur just so we can get a load of deportation flights sent there. The third bit of lunacy. 8 of the MPs who demanded a new airport in Pakistan apparently oppose a third runway at Heathrow. Most notably, hard-left MP Zara Sultana. She said that building a new runway in the midst of a climate emergency would be reckless, short-sighted and indefensible. But a new airport is fine, as long as more people from Pakistan can come to Britain and vice versa. MP Tandezi put his name to this letter. Now, I would politely suggest to Mr Desi that this isn't really the best idea he's ever had. Now, the main religion in Mirpur is, of course, Islam, and he did not appear to be particularly popular with some Muslim constituents at the last election, as he found out when he turned up to canvass for votes at a local mosque.
My family have died in Palestine. No, you're not welcome. You're not welcome here. Get out. Leave, man. This is a place of worship. We don't need devils like you here. Move. Move from here. Get out. Get out. Move. Get out. You're not welcome. You're not welcome here.
Could it possibly be that Mr Desi is trying to win back favour with some of those people by supporting a new airport in Pakistan? I wonder. Well, to his credit, Labour Security Minister Dan Jarvis said he expects MPs to focus on more, quotes, local issues. Look, does this Mirpur airport story prove that for many MPs, especially those in the Labour Party or on the left, that their primary focus is trying to secure the votes of the British Pakistani community? Let's get thoughts on my panel. We've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've got former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jay Berry, and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser. Carol, what do you make of this? Should they be focusing more on issues much closer to home?
Of course, you know, if I was a constituent in any of the constituencies that these people represent, I'd be furious. It is not there. You know, building an airport in Mirpur is nothing whatsoever to do with them. This guy, Tahir Ali... oh, no, that wasn't Tahir. It was
Tahir Ali was one of them.
That was
the first
one,
one,
yeah. Saying that, you know, that a lot of his constituents have to get a plane to Islamabad. So what? They're going on holiday. Doesn't matter. Who cares? The airport's got nothing to do with that. You'd almost think that we're all getting something out of it. You'd almost think that, wouldn't you? But anyway, that's by the by. I'm sure they're not. But, you know, you know, if you lived in those countries, if you lived in Birmingham, for sure, where the streets are strewn with rubbish and there's giant-style rats and infestation and disease, you would think, I wonder how many conversations he's had with people there about that. I wonder what he's done to stop this strike, because we've been told the strike could go on well into the summer, which would be catastrophic. And tonight they were just saying it's almost a state of emergency there now. So you'd think he would be concentrating on that, not an airport 5,000 miles away that he wants to be built.
I mean, Jackie, it doesn't do any favours to people who basically say, well, hang on a minute, a load of our MPs are much more focused on either foreign issues or appeasing aspects of the British Pakistani community than maybe everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that we saw at the last election the sort of sectarianisation of British politics to some extent, with independent MPs being elected here in the United Kingdom just on the issue of Gaza, which, you know, important issue that it is thousands of miles away from the UK and doesn't improve your local schools, your hospitals, your roads, get your bins emptied. So I would urge all of these MPs to focus on the issues of the people who elect them, which, you know, the home issues to us were, when I was an MP, it was always the most important thing. And the other thing I think is really interesting about this letter is, of course, it was signed by 7 Northern MPs. Now, if you look back to the Chancellor's statements around Heathrow, that's all about investing in the south of England, creating growth in the south of England. Now, of course, if Boris Johnson were in power, he'd say, well, let's level up the north, let's invest in the north. We have seen a demolishing of the programme to invest in our regions like the north of England, in Scotland and in Wales by this Labour government. Why are these northern MPs not calling on the government? Don't build an airport in Mirpur, invest in Manchester Airport. Get rid of this crazy business rate increase that the Chancellor's just laid upon Manchester Airport, going to cost it over £1 million a year. You know, do stuff like that. Help the people in the region you represent.
Yeah, well, what do you make of this? I mean, the argument, presumably, would be that actually, for a lot of the constituents in that Birmingham seat of Tahir Ali or around the Slough area, for example, an airport in Mirpur, believe it or not, is the primary focus for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to come back on what Jake said, I'm not going to be lectured by the Tories on investment in the north when, of course, Rishi Sunak famously went, as I think you wrote about in the your Express column this week, Jake, went, you know, cancelled the HS2 link to the north of England. But
the Labour Party hasn't renewed it then, Matthew, has it?
Because you didn't leave any money to do it.
That's what these MPs
because you didn't leave any money to do it.
Invest in the north of England, not the north of Pakistan.
But, yeah, the reason that these MPs signed this letter was because they'd had approaches from their constituents, many of whom will have British Pakistani heritage, and, you know, an airport in Mirpur is not my number one issue. It may be an issue of importance to those. But I have to say, particularly if you're a Birmingham MP at the moment, I think you'd have a laser-like focus, as Dan Jarvis says, on local issues. I can understand why they did it. I'm not sure that it was the moment to do it.
Starmer needs to tell these MPs to do their job they're paid to do, which is not represent people in Mirpur. But, you know...
Well, it's representing British people who want to go to Mirpur.
Yeah, but on holiday.
Or see their relatives.
Well, to see that's still on holiday. They don't live there, they live here. But the bottom line is, these are the same MPs who actually voted against the third runway on the basis of climate change and the basis it was going to be disastrous for the planet. So what? Does Mirpur, does Pakistan get a pass on producing carbon emissions? Because here we're told we can't do it. And we're told it's appalling. And never mind the thousands of jobs that would be lost if it didn't go ahead in Heathrow. But so how can they argue that climate change is bad here, but it's not going to be bad in Mirpur?
Because they're complete and utter hypocrites.
Well, of course they are, and that's the point here. Because that's why I say, why are they doing this? Somebody needs to look at the Spectator did a piece asking why Zara Sultana, she used to be Labour, she's not now, she's independent, asking why she is so interested. We need to look further into this, into why they're so interested. I find it fascinating.
Well, because my was in Kashmir, and a lot of British Asians, Pakistanis are from the Kashmir region, and there's often a lot of sort of pressure from Kashmiri communities. A lot of Labour MPs go on the trip out there. In fact, quite a lot of some Tories did it as well.
Another example of how domestic British politics is being run, or certainly massively influenced by foreign issues.
Well, I think the issue is that this is British politics being influenced in particular parts of the country by voters, British voters in those constituencies with votes who have that heritage.
These people should be representing the local community. Do you think more people in their community want flights to Maypur or want the winter fuel payment back? Because if what they're doing is reacting to their constituents, why aren't they signing a letter saying, give every pensioner in my constituency...
To be fair to Zahra Sultana, she did vote against the cut to the winter fuel allowance.
And 19, every pensioner in my constituency, their winter fuel payment. Do something to support your local people, give them their winter fuel payment back, stop banging on about things that are no concern of Britain. And I'll tell you, as someone who's been an MP, this will have spent 30 seconds in the hand of the Pakistani official or consul general who received it as he picked it up, screwed it in a ball and threw it in a bin. They will not care what these British MPs say. It's nonsense.
This is the same political class that enforces net zero on all of us. We have to pay more for our boilers. We have to pay more to do almost everything. And yet, you know, Miramar, Pakistan gets a pass on. They're cheering on for massive, massive building over there. The hypocrisy is staggering.
Can I ask you, Matthew, about... Look, Tan Desi, I think he's appeared on GBNews a couple of times. You know, I've met him once or twice. Seems like a nice chap. Absolutely nothing against the guy personally at all. You know, I think he seems like a nice guy. Had a very unfortunate experience in the run-up to the last election where he presented himself at a mosque canvassing for votes, as anyone is entitled to do, and really was hounded. I mean, it was awful. He was hounded out of there. You know, he was called all sorts of things that I can't...
Because he's a Sikh.
Yeah. And however, if you do look at the demographic, the major demographics of Mirpur, it appears really to me that he was now, despite experiencing that, going into bat for more people from that area who might be inclined to treat him that way here in Britain again. Is that unfair?
Well, I think that's a bit unfair, Patrick. I mean, the issue is he represents Slough, which is a very multi-ethnic community. He has Sikh constituents, he has Muslim constituents as well. I mean, I know what you mean, Jake, about people, but, you know, if you... Let me just finish. If you represent a constituency with a large Jewish population, you're likely to take more of an interest in matters to do with Israel. You know, if you have different populations in your constituency, mean that you will have different... some of your priorities will be different, but I'm sure that these MPs are all campaigning on different issues, and I'm sure Tahir Ali wants an end to the Birmingham bin strike, as does Keir Starmer.
Yeah, and look, hey, no doubt these MPs will say they can do more than one thing at once, and OK, fair enough. I just felt with numerous different things going on in the country at the moment, with various different public services in absolute crisis, with taxes going up, all of that maybe it was a bit tone deaf, but there we go. Anyway, of course, it is now time for the biggest and greatest Great British Giveaway.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I've got an absolutely remarkable story coming up about Prince Harry. I mean, the question is whether or not he has now rendered an AIDS charity set up in his mother's honour in Africa completely redundant because he felt as though the person leading that charity was rude to Meghan. A remarkable story. He's been accused of bullying and harassment. But up next, the Prime Minister pledges to get a grip on Britain's soft-touch approach to illegal immigration. But do you actually believe him? Some astonishing new figures have been published. I'll reveal all very shortly.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Withensea. It's an East Yorkshire seaside town that's been here for centuries. Once a bustling coastal resort, now only its pier towers remain. And like many British seaside destinations, it's seen a drop in holiday makers.
Gone are the days when we had packed beaches. The area has changed and, you know, it just needs a little bit more, so there's something to do for people.
Since they pulled the railway, that was a death of witnesses sort of thing. Slowly it's died to what it is now. About the next thing, I guess, it'll go in the sea.
Yeah, I think it's a typical English seaside town, and sometimes they don't move with the times, do they?
And it hasn't changed a lot since, you know, when I come. But still people here, still people come.
Plans for a new pier were scrapped in 2023 due to funding issues. Now, with price hikes brought on by Labour's autumn budget, business owners are feeling the pinch. Annette Bagley owns the Rosy Leaf Cafe, and she's been forced to put up her prices.
It's been a bit hard because the wages have gone up, national insurance has gone up, so everything is going up. My costs for just running the place, the coffee's gone up, chocolate's gone up. Everything really has just gone up, and I'm afraid I've had to pass that on to customers by putting my prices up a little bit.
East Riding Council has schemes in place to boost the economy.
And we're just trying to make the town better in lots of different ways. We also have a big voluntary group called Town Smart, and there's a great team of volunteers, and we're out there litter picking, cleaning, painting, and we're also going to sort of see if we can create a business collective and a business group as we go forwards to help local businesses.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. Loads coming your way, including this bizarre story that Prince Harry has allegedly scrapped an AIDS charity because the leader of it might have been rude to his wife. But, oh, hang on a minute, what's this now? Oh, Keir Starmer's just declared victory when it comes to illegal immigration. It's time to have the head-to-head. So, the Prime Minister, he's talking tough on the small boats.
Migration is a massive driver of global insecurity. It undermines our ability to control who comes here. And that makes people angry.
Oh, indeed. For once, I agree with the Prime Minister. It does make me very angry. But the Prime Minister has said that deportations under Labour have hit 24,000, which he claims would have taken 80 years under the Conservatives' Rwanda plan. The PM has announced a raft of measures at Organised Crime Summit in London. So let's have a look at what these measures are, shall we? These include 30 million quid of funding for border security, the expansion of right-to-work checks for the gig economy, so companies like Deliveroo, £1 million to go to rooting out people smuggling in Kurdistan, and an advertising campaign on Vietnamese social media, trying to discourage people from making the journey. So, Will it work? Debating this now are former Labour Defence Secretary Geoff Hoon and former Tory MP Bob Seeley. Chaps, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure as always. Bob, I'll start with you. Well, will it work?
No.
Good stuff. Why not?
Look, Keir Starmer's a left-wing lawyer. He spent his lifetime taking on cases, fighting cases of illegal immigrants and people who want to come into this country and shouldn't. He doesn't mean a word that he says, but he knows damn well he's in a massive electoral bind. He's going to get absolutely hammered in about a month's time in the local elections. His vote's imploding. They only got 34% on a landslide victory last time because our vote imploded and frankly split. So I don't believe for 1 second he's going to do anything effective. He'll continue to talk the talk. He has opposed everything that we've ever done, and as a lawyer, he worked against the immigration system, and as he said himself, immigration laws he thinks have a racist tint. So I don't believe a word that he says on this. Anything that he does say is entirely motivated by electoral fear, and we're not going to get, look, if you come into this country illegally, which you do if you come in a small boat, you should be sent straight back. That's what we were trying to do at the end of the last government. They opposed us and fought it every step of the way. And already this year, illegal crossings are up 31%. He's simply fibbing because he's panicking.
Well, there are some quite devastating facts there. I'll bring you in on this now, Geoff. So small boat crossings are up nearly 40% year on year, which is not a victory, is it? And do you think that we can really trust a Prime Minister who, as Bob was saying there, has previously said that immigration laws have a racist tint?
Well, first of all, the numbers have been going up steadily over many years, including under the Conservative government, despite all of the £270 million that was wasted on a gimmick of sending people to Rwanda, when in fact the only 2 people who went volunteered to go. So that was £270 million of taxpayers' hard-earned money poured down the drain by Bob and his colleagues in the House of Commons representing the Conservative Party. But let's come to today's conference. Let's take, for example, somebody who sets off from Vietnam in order to cross the Channel eventually. In order to get from Vietnam to Calais, to the Channel ports, that person has to travel across a dozen countries. That's not something that person does on their own. They do it because there are organised gangs facilitating that kind of immigration. And what this conference was about was bringing together 40 countries and organisations, all of whom have an interest in preventing that person making their way from Vietnam. It's an entirely sensible initiative. It needed to be done. It's not just about, as again the Conservative government did, paying French policemen out of taxpayers' money to stand on the beach near Calais. Okay. There just aren't enough policemen in France to do that.
Well, let's put that to Bob. Look, today there was an international summit in London aimed at tackling the people smuggling gangs. Keir Starmer managed to bring in a whole raft of people from the countries that Geoff was talking about there, that these illegal migrants have to pass through in order to get to Britain. I mean, is he not doing more than your lot ever did?
No, he's not, because he opposed everything we ever did. Look, if this summit actually amounts to anything great. Really, I welcome anything and everything that is going to work. But, I mean, politicians who say they can stop this downstream, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. There are simply sort of vast amounts of money to be made out of migrant channels. And there's only one thing that's going to work, and it's Labour have opposed it from the word go. And that is, if you come here illegally, you go back to where you came from. You're arrested, you're put in the magistrate's court for illegal entry into our country, you're put in prison, and after a month, when we finally find out where you come from, you go back there. That's the only thing that's going to work. This government will not do it. I hope the next Conservative government, with or without Reform Help, will. That's the only thing that's going to work. What really gets me is, and I'm sure Geoff is a nice enough man, I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, but it's nice to do so on this programme. But regardless, why is it that Labour MPs and ex-MPs and cabinet ministers think a statement of facts is somehow some kind of argument? It's not. You know, just saying the weather's been nice, that explains, that, as Yvette Cooper's been doing, that explains why we've had more immigrants. That's not an explanation. Everyone in this country knows that it peaks in summer. You know, you can have forward.
Well, it's peaking now as well, to be fair. I mean, it has peaked. It's 40% up. But Jeff, can I just bring you back in here? Because this claim, the big bold claim that formed the centrepiece of Keir Starmer's statement today, that 24,000 people have been deported and returned. People have looked at that figure and they've said it's rubbish. They've said that actually there was only 6,339 enforced returns. The majority were voluntary returns. So actually, is that a lie from Labour today?
I don't believe so, although I'm not in a position here this evening to talk about the numbers. I don't have access to that information. But can I just deal with Bob's point? He tried to make out that this was a simple, straightforward, easy way of resolving the problem. He was a member of Parliament when the government did not adopt the easy way that he's suggesting. Why, if it's so easy to deal with this issue, did the last Conservative government not address the problem? And they didn't.
I get it, but Jeff, if it turns out, so sorry to drill down on this, Jeff, but sorry, we can't, fine, you might not be privy to all the details, but I mean, if it emerges that this claim is true, that of the 24,000 people Labour are dressing up as, they are dressing it up as these are people we've deported, that actually only 6,339 of them were enforced returns, should the Prime Minister apologise for misleading the British public?
I suspect that many of those voluntary returns are to places like Albania, where an agreement has been reached with the government, and in effect, the people who are going back are simply recognising that they might as well return home before they're forced to go back. So I think there will be perfectly legitimate reasons for counting in those numbers, because it is the result of an agreement with the government of Albania or a similar government.
OK, look, both of you, thank you very much. We obviously watch this space when it comes to the ongoing situation in the Channel and the back of lorries everywhere. But that was former Labour Defence Secretary Geoff Hoon and former Tory MP Bob Seeley. Coming up, another bizarre entry into the MP's Expenses Hall of Fame, as a Labour MP claims 900 quid to keep her dog in her second home. We're going to have a look at some of the greatest hits when it comes to MPs' expenses scandals. This is insane. Prince Harry is caught in another row, this time a bullying row within an AIDS charity set up to honour his mother. Is it really the case that he's helped to disband that charity because he thought that the leader of it was rude to Meghan? Stay tuned.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. We'll see some sunshine, a few showers across the western Mediterranean on Tuesday. Thundery showers the further east you go. So for the Canaries, Madeira and Portugal, a mixture of sunshine, a few showers. Plenty of sunshine across much of Spain, and then we run into some very unsettled weather across central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean. Some thundery downpours here could give a few flooding issues in places. Things do improve in the east over the coming few days, but we'll see showers then developing further west.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GBNews, Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. Every night from 11 p.m.
The Daily Mail. White glamour model Martina Big, 36, who, quote, identifies as black, quote, after having tanning... I can't do it. Who identifies as black, quote, after having tanning injections, and this is the bit, this is the kicker at the end of it, announces plan to move to Africa. Yeah. There's so much to unpack here. This is a woman called Martina Big, who is well-named.
That's her birth name.
That is her birth name, but also the description of her chest. She's spent quite a lot of money getting the largest breasts in Europe. She now, however, has been injecting herself with some kind of pigment or colouring system to turn her from white to black.
Let's have a look. So this is before.
This is before, and then it's quite a shocking shift here. She's been to Kenya to go and meet the Masai Mara. They've christened her. They've given her a baptism, and so she's now believing that she is Kenyan, and she's going over to Kenya. So what is weird about this is it's like, obviously the...
Tell us what's weird about it.
Well, what is weird about it? There's obviously the initial thought of like, that's really inappropriate. This is blackfacing, but not even in a temporary way. Yeah. But then hang on. she wants to be living her true life. So maybe she should be. This is where it's all got tied up in itself. Steve used to be a black woman before to the business. We go to our correspondent.
What's the difference in blackface here and what gender-critical women would call women face, which they would say that's how they address men, biological men, now saying that they're women. They would say it's the same, like Dylan Mulvaney, who is, as far as I know, still an intact male, but sort of prancing around and sort of being this kind of...
like a girl.
Yeah, like oh, I'm a girl and that's very offensive to women.
In fact, this woman actually has a greater claim because evolutionarily, she will have black ancestors.
Of course, we all do.
Yeah, so...
And, according to her, she will, and I'm not a doctor, but she will have black children.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Giuffre, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So Prince Harry has been accused of bullying and harassment tonight. The Duke of Sussex allegedly sent unpleasant and imperious messages to a charity boss after she refused to publicly defend Meghan Markle. It all began after this awkward exchange with the chair of Centre Barley, Dr. Sophie Chandauka.
Such a great
The Sussexes were apparently furious at public backlash over that video, which people saw as an attempt, rightly or wrongly, by Meghan Markle to try to push her to one side. But they were even more enraged, apparently, the Sussexes, when Dr. Chandauka refused to issue a statement dismissing the idea of any tension. She said she did not wish to become an extension of the Sussex PR machine. The Duke then contacted her directly to complain, with sources describing the message as unpleasant. Now, yesterday, amid claims that charity trustees were briefing against her, Dr. Chandauka went on the offensive, labelling Harry and Meghan toxic.
At some point on Tuesday, Prince Harry authorised the release of a damaging piece of news to the outside world without informing me, or my country directors, or my executive director. And can you imagine what that attack has done for me, on me, and the 540 individuals in the Centre Barley organisations and their family? That is an example of harassment and bullying at scale.
I'm joined now by royal commentator Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, thank you very, very much. I mean, can it really be the case that Prince Harry has helped to disband an AIDS charity in Africa founded due to his mother's legacy because the chairwoman of it got into a row with his wife?
I mean, she does believe that things went south for their personal relationship when she refused to defend Meghan Markle, saying, look, I'm not your publicist. I don't want to get involved. It just equals more trolling. I do think that ultimately the problems started when she said, let's keep things central. We don't need to race all over the world to fundraise for this charity that has seen immense decline in fundraising and in money because of Harry and Meghan's actions, because of the toxicity of that brand. So I believe that that is where the problem started, her saying, I'd like to focus on South Africa fundraising, and where it imploded personally is when she put her foot down and said, no, I'm not going, I want to be above the fray. I don't want to get involved in this drama with your wife and the internet.
Well, quite. And she claims, the chairwoman here, Dr. Chandauka, that she was informed lastminute.com that Netflix cameras were going to be turning up to a polo event and that she didn't want that. But Prince Harry, who had also apparently been just appointing board members to this charity without consulting her, was just basically behaving like a kind of tin pot dictator of this charity. I mean, it's really remarkable revelations coming to the fold here.
It is, and I feel like the reason we haven't heard similar stories over the last few years is because she talks about, Prince Harry just at the last minute appointing someone else to the board. Prince Harry has done a great job so far of surrounding himself by yes people within Senabale, and it made his life easier there. It has made, it's kept the headlines clean and kept him up to speed, I guess. But I do think what he's being accused of here is doing exactly what he accused the British royal family of doing throughout the Netflix series, throughout the Oprah Winfrey interview, and Spare, weaponizing the media against his enemy, which in this case is Dr. Sophie Chandauka.
Well, it's also, I mean, she may well be, quotes unquote, his enemy, but she is also the chairwoman of an AIDS charity in Lesotho, a very important cause, a cause that preserves and furthers his mum, Princess Diana's legacy. I'm just going to read out here that, yes, apparently he sent an unpleasant note with imperious language because she decided not to publicly quash rumours of a rebellion between her and Meghan. She has now accused him of harassment and bullying at scale by basically throwing her under a media bus, a claim that he denies strongly, but it does appear as though he's maybe prioritising his wife's reputation over basically children with AIDS in Africa.
Ooh, I hadn't even thought about it that way. That puts it in a completely different perspective. But I do think that this is the first time that the Sussexes have found an adversary willing to defend themselves in the court of public opinion. Harry and Meghan grew comfortable attacking the royal family, an institution that lives by never complain, never explain, knowing that they were going to get away with it. Meanwhile, Dr. Sophie's strategy has been, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell the world everything. I have receipts. And I don't think that they were mentally prepared for that.
No, indeed. It's part of just yet another raft of negative press for Prince Harry, who, at the moment, it appears, anyway, between him and Meghan, fall out with every single person they come into contact with.
It just confirms what we've heard over the last few years, that they are difficult to collaborate with when it comes to working with them professionally. Look at Spotify. Don't forget, they fired their very first production crew on their original Netflix series. I do think they are difficult to work with, and they need to look in the mirror instead of continuing to shift blame on everyone but themselves.
Yeah, and again, I'll just say that some of the claims made by the chairwoman of this charity are that a venue for a charity polo match for Senabale was lost because Harry wanted to bring a Netflix crew with him. Donors walked out because of Harry's reputation. Kinsey, thank you very, very much. Tremendous to have you on. As always, Kinsey Schofield, their royal commentator. I will stress that Prince Harry and the Sussexes deny any wrongdoing. They deny that they are guilty of harassment and bullying. And clearly, this is an ongoing row. So maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. But coming up, is there some Islamic virtue signalling going on? It does seem that many people, including the Prime Minister, are absolutely tripping over themselves to wish everybody a happy Eid. But when it comes to Christian events, not so much. Next, though, hey, look, you lucky people have paid for a Labour MP to keep a cockapoo in her second home. Well done, you. I'm also going to be talking about this ridiculous story that now a sitting MP has had threats from police for standing up for a constituent. And we are told we don't have two-tier justice in Britain. Stay tuned. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. If you enjoyed the sunshine today, well, there's more to come tomorrow and indeed for the next few days. Bit fresh first thing tomorrow morning, but feeling warm by the afternoon. It's not been sunny everywhere today. We've had this weather front, which is now clearing away from northern Scotland, but high pressure has generally been dominant and it will continue to control our weather, bringing many places clear skies overnight. Quite a lot of cloud earlier across Northern Ireland. That's now moving away and the cloud breaking up across Scotland. Increasing chance of some mist and low cloud, maybe a bit of fog forming over parts of the Midlands and eastern England, where temperatures will dip down close to freezing to 3 or 4 Celsius. That's in towns and cities. A bit milder across the southwest, where there will again be a fairly noticeable breeze blowing tomorrow. And it will be a bit breezier around the coasts of Scotland, perhaps just a little bit of ha on the east coast at first, and maybe some cloudy skies to begin with across Shetland. But generally for Scotland and Northern Ireland, far less in the way of cloud tomorrow compared to today. Could start a bit drab over parts of the Midlands, maybe northern England, some mist, low cloud, bit of fog here, maybe East Anglia too, but any mist and fog should clear certainly by mid-morning. And then we're looking at, well, spectacular spring sunshine, really almost wall to wall. There will be a chilly breeze blowing across southern England and South Wales, and a bit breezy across western Scotland, Northern Ireland, and perhaps still on the east coast too. And if that breeze is coming in from the North Sea, you'll notice it. Temperatures pegged back as a result. But inland, in the sunshine, 17, 18 degrees, maybe a touch warmer across the northwest of Scotland. Similar day on Wednesday. Again, most places fine and with lots and lots of sunshine. Still a bit breezy in the south and a bit more of a breeze maybe on some of those North Sea coasts. Just a threat of some of that low cloud drifting in. That's going to be more of a feature later in the week, but look at that. Plenty of sunshine and feeling warmer for most Wednesday and Thursday.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Giuffre, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 2 big stories crammed into one section here for you. So starting off with you, the British taxpayer, have coughed up £900 so a Labour MP can stay with her cockapoo called Bella. The MP for Coventry North West, Taiwo Owatemi, claimed £900 in pet rent after the landlord at her second home in London issued an extra charge in return for allowing Owatemi to let her dog stay with her. MPs are entitled to claim back the rent for their London properties if they represent a constituency outside the capital. And the Parliamentary Authority, IPSA, have said that they have apologised to Owatemi for giving her incorrect advice. Well, joining me now is former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. Kelvin, this is up with duck pond houses and expensive toilet seats. I mean, this is an expensive scandal, isn't it? Why are we paying for a cockapoo?
Why indeed? And were it not for the spotlight of the media, the Sunday Times pointing this out, then we wouldn't be in the situation right now, which exists tonight, which that the government are hastily running around trying to change the interpretation that these civil servants have put on this. This is totally ridiculous. There are 2 ridiculous aspects to it. If you are an ordinary person, first of all, I didn't know that landlords charged more for having a pet. I didn't know that that was a thing at all. I mean, I've been in the landlord business. I've had tenants with pets. I've never charged them any more money. It's a question of whether you want that dog or that cat to be in your home or not. So I've got a massive question mark about how that conversation actually took place and how an enormous sum like £900 was ever mentioned in the discussion. So I'd be quite interested if anybody's going to email your show and explain how this happened. Secondly, a government minister, junior one, yes, has already said that this is quite wrong, right? So their own side are saying this should never have happened. My other issue is this. The other thing that happens, I don't know whether you know anything about this work, but if you have a dog and you go on holiday and you want a dog sitter, i.e. you haven't got a relative who look after it or a friend or something like that, that is an absolute fortune. Have we actually ever paid for that MP? So when she went on holiday, did somebody pick up for 2 weeks while she was away or 10 days away, pick up £300, £400, £500? There's a fantastic business in dog sitting. So if it never works out for you at GBNews, Patrick, you can join me in Dog Sitters Anonymous, in which we'll have a great business. But this is preposterous. It's quite wrong. And I do not want my money to go on a cockapoo or a terrier or a Jack Russell or anything. No. Let's stop it now.
Well, it doesn't help the narrative that MPs, specifically in this case Labour MPs, are on the take. But a spokesman for IPSA, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, said IPSA is committed to supporting a parliament where people without the private finances to fund working from 2 locations themselves are not prevented from becoming an MP. That is why we fund accommodation costs with strict limits. It is common for landlords to include additional surcharges in rental agreements. But Calvin, this whizzes me on to the second story that I know we're desperate to talk about. So Hertfordshire Police were slammed for sending 6 uniformed officers round to the house of a couple who dared to criticise their child's school in a WhatsApp group. Heavy-handed policing. Well, the development, as far as I can tell tonight, is that their MP, Oliver Dowden, was also contacted by police and told that if he carried on standing up for them, that they might extend their harassment charges to include him. What is going on in Britain?
Do you know what? This is a shocking story. Once again, it's the spotlight from the media that's brought it to the fore. So where would we be unless people were coming forward right now? I feel it's an appalling moment. And Dowden was not the only one caught up in it. The local councillor who had been acting on behalf of these parents who were involved in this. It's a school dispute. Honestly, the reason why so many teachers are quitting right now is because there are so many disputes between parents and schools. What on earth has this got to do with the police force? The police are there to get crime, not to get involved in some kind of social bang-up going on in a neighbourhood, right? And the idea, right? So that couple, not only were they arrested, they then spent 8 hours down at the police station answering questions from these police officers. And then they were then told 5 weeks later, actually, we're not taking any action. Any old school police officer watching tonight will tell you that actually they would never have acted like this a decade ago.
No, they wouldn't.
There is no action.
But this is a concern. This is a massive concern. So Sir Oliver Dowden, who's the local MP there, said that he was astonished that a police officer suggested that elected officials could themselves be investigated if they continued to advocate for the couple that were getting a knock on the door for police for basically something they said in a WhatsApp group. So police feel empowered enough to threaten an elected member of Parliament, according to Oliver Dowden anyway, with arrest or with some form of charges if he stood up for his own constituents. This is like Orwell's nightmare, isn't it?
Yes, and the other thing is that email that was sent out to the councillor and then eventually made its way to Dowden was in fact written by a police constable. Now, if it had been written by the chief constable, perhaps he would have taken a load of legal advice and he would have had KCs and God knows what all over it. Can I be honest with you? What on earth is a police constable sending out a supercharged email like that? Who instructed him to do it? Why are they doing it? And the other thing is, there was a new chief constable for Hertfordshire called Andy Prophet. He came from Essex, where Alison Pearson actually ran into trouble. Do you remember that when the police officers turned up on Remembrance Sunday? Right? What on earth is this officer doing? Who was telling him to write this?
Well, it's concerning. It's concerning. It's absolutely right. The idea that what do most people care about? It's a little bit like the story about MPs going into bat for an airport in Mirpur whilst their bins aren't being collected in their own constituency. What do people in that area really care about? They care about stabbings, they care about rapes, they care about shoplifting, they care about all sorts of stuff. I don't really think they care about whether or not a local MP or indeed parents decide to get involved in what is basically a WhatsApp dispute with a local school. But Kelvin, thank you very, very much. Tremendous stuff as ever. Former editor of The Sun there, Kelvin McKenzie. Couple of bits of housekeeping. There may well have been a couple of councillors mentioned there who are not here to defend themselves. And I want to make that very clear. They would deny any wrongdoing. Also, Hertfordshire Police have said following reports of harassment and malicious communications, which are criminal offences, a man and a woman in Boreham Wood were spoken to. In relation to the police visit, a complaint was submitted. It was deemed that the service provided by officers was appropriate. Coming up, do you think we might have been over Ramadan?
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. If you enjoyed the sunshine today, well, there's more to come tomorrow and indeed for the next few days. A bit fresh first thing tomorrow morning, but feeling warm by the afternoon. It's not been sunny everywhere today. We've had this weather front, which is now clearing away from northern Scotland, but high pressure has generally been dominant and it will continue to control our weather, bringing many places clear skies overnight. Quite a lot of cloud earlier across Northern Ireland. That's now moving away and the cloud breaking up across Scotland. Increasing chance of some mist and low cloud, maybe a bit of fog forming over parts of the Midlands and eastern England, where temperatures will dip down close to freezing to 3 or 4 Celsius. That's in towns and cities. A bit milder across the southwest, where there will again be a fairly noticeable breeze blowing tomorrow. And it will be a bit breezier around the coasts of Scotland, perhaps just a little bit of ha on the east coast at first, and maybe some cloudy skies to begin with across Shetland. But generally for Scotland and Northern Ireland, far less in the way of cloud tomorrow compared to today. Could start a bit drab over parts of the Midlands, maybe northern England, some mist, low cloud, bit of fog here, maybe East Anglia too, but any mist and fog should clear certainly by mid-morning. And then we're looking at, well, spectacular spring sunshine, really almost wall to wall. There will be a chilly breeze blowing across southern England and South Wales, and a bit breezy across western Scotland, Northern Ireland, and perhaps still on the east coast too. And if that breeze is coming in from the North Sea, you'll notice it. Temperatures pegged back as a result. But inland, in the sunshine, 17, 18 degrees, maybe a touch warmer across the northwest of Scotland. Similar day on Wednesday. Again, most places fine and with lots and lots of sunshine. Still a bit breezy in the south and a bit more of a breeze maybe on some of those North Sea coasts. Just a threat of some of that low cloud drifting in. That's going to be more of a feature later in the week, but look at that. Plenty of sunshine and feeling warmer for most Wednesday and Thursday.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
racist. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys Tonight. Has there been an excessive focus on Ramadan and Eid this year? And does your little boy not want to put his dress on? Will your little girl only play with the female Barbie doll? Is your toddler transphobic? Tonight I reveal that children as young as 3 are being suspended from nurseries for being anti-LGBT. Plus, so Labour are saying that they've deported more migrants than ever before. However, people are saying, frankly, that's a load of rubbish and they've made those figures up. Do you trust them to control our borders? And well, it appears to be a victory for white people who find themselves in a magistrate's court. I'll reveal all later on. But do you remember this from America? Elon Musk, SpaceX, that amazing feat of human engineering, conquering space travel.
We're continuing to get good call-outs on the first stage performance so far.
Great stuff. Let's just check in, shall we, and see how the Europeans are getting on. Yeah. I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, ex-Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser and former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry, and why bother paying for a train ticket these days? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Is it just me, or has there been quite a lot of Ramadan this year? Next.
Patrick, thank you. Good evening. At the top story, the Sentencing Council is to pause the controversial 2-tier sentencing guidelines immediately pending the introduction of emergency legislation, which the government is due to introduce to Parliament in the next 3 weeks. The Sentencing Council was due to bring in new rules around how judges should determine punishment for people from ethnic minority backgrounds. The new law to end 2-tier justice will be published tomorrow. It's to stop 2-tier sentencing rules discriminating against white men. However, the law won't be enforced until after Easter, as it won't have cleared both the Commons and the House of Lords. The Prime Minister has urged more than 40 countries gathering in London today to work together to stop people smuggling gangs and treat them in a similar way to terrorists. The UK and other countries affected by people smuggling must work together, the Prime Minister said in a landmark summit aimed at cracking down on illegal migration. Countries including Albania, Vietnam and Iraq, from where migrants have travelled to the UK, are joining the talks alongside representatives from France, the US and China. Sir Keir Starmer added since the government came to power, Labour have returned 24,000 people with no right to be in the country. The National Crime Agency released footage of key arrests, including those linked to a major Syrian organised crime group responsible for smuggling at least 750 migrants into the UK and Europe. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says the gangs are undermining UK national security.
And we have countries from Vietnam, Iraq, Nigeria, as well as our nearest neighbours across Europe, France, Germany, and countries like the US and China, all facing real challenges from criminal gangs that try to exploit our borders in order to make huge profits, but agreeing today new law enforcement cooperation, intelligence sharing to go after these vile criminal gangs and to tackle this terrible trade in human beings.
The father of Prince Andrew accuser Virginia Giuffre says he's praying for his daughter after she claimed she has just days to live. The mum of 3 who was sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and accused Prince Andrew of sexually abusing her when she was 17 says she's suffering kidney failure after a horrific bus crash. Virginia shared a photograph from a hospital bed with her face covered in bruises. Posting on Instagram, she begged to see her children one last time. And Birmingham City Council's declared a major incident to address the impact of the ongoing bin strike, as it estimates 17,000 tonnes of waste remains uncollected around the city. Members of the Unite Union in Birmingham are holding an all-out strike, which has led to rubbish piling up in the streets. The council says daily blocking of its depots by picket lines has meant workers cannot get their vehicles out to collect the waste. The major incident will also allow the council to explore what further support is available from neighbouring authorities and the government to assist with the situation. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more news in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. A lot of people are saying that there's been an excessive focus on Ramadan and Eid this year. Let's just look at the religious demographics of Britain. As of 2021, 46.2% of the population is Christian, 37.2% say they have no religion, and 6.5% say they're Muslim. People have noticed that during Ramadan, the king gave a special message to the Muslim community.
The Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan. Peace be upon you all. Ramadan Mubarak.
He also opened up Windsor Castle for a very special iftar. Prime Minister Keir Starmer hosted the first ever Ramadan iftar event in Parliament.
It is absolutely fantastic to be with you as people gather in homes, in mosques and communities around the country during this special season. Come together in charity and service and welcome people of all faiths and none for an iftar.
It's fair to say that that didn't go down that well with all Muslims. The editor of Britain's largest Muslim news site, 5 Pillars, Rushan Saleh, tweeted, "Shame on all Muslims who attended this iftar with genocide enabler Keir Starmer. How can any believing and practising Muslim break bread with a man who is complicit in the deaths of our Palestinian brethren?" We've obviously had the Ramadan lights on Oxford Street.
3, 2, 1! Happy Ramadan! Assalamu alaikum!
Then yesterday it was Mother's Day, and it was also Eid, which was emphatically noted by the British Army. They wished their Muslim personnel a happy Eid. Now, some people, perhaps unfairly, pointed out that as of 2015, more British Muslim men had joined ISIS and the Nusra Front than joined the British Army. The Football Association, they went big for Eid as well. There was also the royal family, again, wishing everyone a very happy Eid. So the royal family have kind of doubled up there. And so did the First Minister of Scotland.
I'm proud to be First Minister of a diverse nation, one made all the richer by our faith and belief communities. So as Muslims prepare to celebrate in Scotland and across the world, I want to take the opportunity to wish you all, on behalf of the Scottish Government, a happy and blessed Eid.
Now, I might have missed this, but he did not appear to say anything about Mother's Day. Unlike, to be fair, the British Army, the Royal Family, the FA, who all did do Mother's Day posts. I appreciate, by the way, before people jump down my throat here, Mother's Day is not a religious festival. But anyway, the BBC decided to go really big on Eid today. They took Eid live from Bradford on BBC One from 10:50 to 11:30.
BBC will be broadcasting the Eid al-Fitr prayers live for the first time ever from Bradford Mosque. We sent our Bradford New Voices Humaira Balm along to see the preparations.
Eid al-Fitr is a celebration that comes at the end of the month of Ramadan, and it's known as breaking of the fast. And this year, the Bradford Central Mosque are hosting something really special, and I'm here to find out more about it.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'd like us to stop being told that we are a racist, Islamophobic country. We're not, are we? We're obviously not. I mean, I also think that, in light of the fact that we've gone so big for Eid and Ramadan, we shouldn't bother toning down Easter or Christmas in case we might cause offence to non-Christians. One school was accused of cancelling an Easter ceremony for the sake of diversity and inclusion. The London School of Economics removed the Lenten Easter terms, seemingly to de-Christian them. Christmas markets have been renamed things like winter come-togethers. A survey of festive cards sent out by local authorities across Britain found that only 1 out of 182 mentioned the birth of Christ. Why is it that so many politicians, institutions and organisations are tripping over themselves to show that they are tolerant and lovely when it comes to the Muslim community, but they shy away from Christian festivals? Now, I'm just going to throw you over now to a clip from, this lady who was talking to the left-wing news outlet, Joe.
Politicians doing everything is doing. I think there is a big responsibility of the Muslim community in that, because we have tried to change the British. It is totally different now. It's nothing like Britain before. You know, it's everybody's like doing their own thing and they want to adapt everything. So this country's own culture has disappeared.
Well, it's interesting what she has to say there. Does she have a point? Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We have got former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry, and the ex-Labour Party advisor, Matthew Larser. Carol, look, I'll just emphasise again for the hard of hearing that, you know, I'm not particularly bothered by the fact that everyone seems to be wishing people a happy Eid and a happy Ramadan. Well, what I do wonder is, well, why then are we called a racist country, and why do we not talk about Christmas in case it offends non-Christians?
Like you, I'm very happy for all religions to celebrate their sacred days. I think it's a good thing. And I'm not upset. A lot of people are across at Prince Charles and saying what he did in holding this iftar ceremony in Windsor Castle, first time a monarch's ever done it. They're saying this is evidence of the Islamification of Britain. I don't believe that at all. Charles has always been supporters of many faiths in this country for decades, and I think it's good that he continues that. However, I get really hacked off that Christians aren't allowed to celebrate their sacred days and their sacred celebrations in the way this very minority religion appears to be. I'm very happy that they've done what they've done. It's great. But it really hacks me off that school you mentioned, the cancelled Easter, so as not to offend. That same school in Eastleigh, that also celebrated Eid, it celebrated Diwali, but yet it cancelled Easter.
They've got a Refugees Welcome Week, I think, as well.
Well, of course they have, with nothing to do with Christianity at all. But, you know, Christianity is still the biggest religion in this country, and yet we are constantly apologising for it, constantly hiding its sacred days, its celebrations, so as not to offend people. Why would Christianity offend somebody? And do you know what I think is the thing? You know, we've seen over the weekend the BBC they've broadcast a ceremony from a mosque and whatever. I wonder how the leaders of other faiths would feel about sharing their days with the Christian faith, because I'm not sure that they all want inclusivity the way we're told it all has to be.
Jake, I'll get your views on this. I mean, again, for me, I saw that tidal wave that we've had of Happy Ramadan and Happy Eid from a variety of different massive institutions and big figures and big corporations in Britain. And I thought, how on earth can people seriously suggest that we're a racist, Islamophobic country when Windsor Castle's been open for an iftar, Parliament has been open for an iftar, the King's wishing everyone a happy Eid and a happy Ramadan? I mean, should we just park this idea that we are Islamophobic?
Well, I mean, it's complete and utter nonsense. And I think, you know, there's a sliding scale here. So, first of all, the king has done absolutely the right thing. He is not just our king, he's king of 13 other nations, which all have most of them have a Muslim population. But also, he's the head of the Commonwealth. And we often forget that the Commonwealth has
He's also
more Muslims living in
it. He didn't say much about Lent.
Well, let me come on to that. But he's the head of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth has more Muslims living in it than the whole of Arabia. It has Pakistan, Bangladesh, Gambia, Malaysia, all of these majority Muslim countries. So he's fulfilling one of his roles of our head of state by wishing Eid Mubarak. He is also, Carol says we're a Christian country. We are. We're officially a Christian country. He is the head of our established church.
Do you think he's strong enough about that?
No, I think he is really strong. I think the king is really strong. And let's not forget also in Britain, we have a bank holiday for Good Friday, we have a bank holiday for Easter Monday, we do have real celebration of our Christian faith. So I think the king's done something absolutely right. On the other end of the scale, you have the BBC, which, in my view, is excessively virtue signalling by saying, oh, well, you know, we must sort of wrap ourselves in Eid because it makes us a more tolerant organisation. That's not true. Clearly. Actually, people of all faiths, whether they're Christian, Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, Jewish, like living in a country where all faith is respected. And the BBC doesn't really understand that by focusing so heavily down on one faith.
Yeah, so there was a live broadcast of an Eid ceremony at a mosque in Bradford, I believe it was, for the first time ever on the BBC. We've had a lot of firsts this year, Matthew, when it comes to it. So it's the first time Windsor Castle was opened up for an iftar. It's the first time we've had an iftar like that in the House of Commons, so I'm led to believe. It's the first time the BBC has done that particular Eid ceremony live broadcast. What's going on there, do you think?
So, I mean, look, I think the problem with this is you get a little bit like Oscars acceptance speeches when people, you know, read out all their thank yous. And why do they have to give out such a long list that go on forever and make it incredibly boring? Because they don't want to miss anybody out. And so the problem is you have a little bit of this. When I worked at the Labour, you had to have a massive wall chart, so you can't forget anybody's. You have to do a video message for everybody.
But everybody's didn't do a Mother's Day post on Twitter.
Yeah, and that's the problem is, and you know, I think the problem is that's exactly it. Oh my God, we've forgotten this. Somebody didn't put the Mother's Day thing on. I think what you should do is, obviously this is a predominantly Christian country, you should recognise the major Christian festivals are the sort of major festivals of the nation, and they're what our school terms
you
about.
Would accept, wouldn't you, Matthew, that they're being subjugated now. They're being hidden, and the aspects of those celebrations are being hidden so as not to offend other faiths. And I don't think it's the people from the other faiths that are.
No, it's not. No, absolutely.
I think it's people in power and positions of power who are acting on their.
They're desperate.
And
so look at Scotland. So we just looked at the figures in Scotland, and and Scotland has about a 1% Muslim population. It has about a 0.8% Chinese population. I was trying to make sure, has the First Minister missed off the lunar, what we used to call the Chinese New Year? Some of this happened some years, it hasn't happened other years, and that's the problem. Is if you start doing one, you've got to do everybody.
It's not a case of missing off. This has been blanket coverage this year, and it'll be very interesting to see if the BBC covers Easter in the same way it has covered Ramadan.
Yeah, I mean, I expect they might do. I mean, the BBC, you know, loathed as I am to ever go into bat for them, I mean, I think there is a case to say that there was a huge amount of virtue signalling that took place today over Eid. They will say, and point to the fact they do shows like Songs of Praise, for example, and they will point to the fact that maybe they will be doing some live Easter.
Well, they actually recorded the Easter Songs of Praise around the corner at the Catholic Cathedral.
I'm sure they will be.
From my house.
Theologically, in the Christian faith, I say this as a Christian myself, Easter is our most important festival.
Yes.
But in reality, in Great Britain, it's Christmas, because everyone celebrates Christmas. Even people who have a very vague relationship with Christianity will celebrate Christmas. And I don't think anyone could look at the coverage around Christmas with 9 lessons and carols, you know, all of the hype we see around Christmas.
GBNews that really did Christmas well last year. We had the messages on from the vicars all around the country. We're the ones who really did that. For a lot of people, and even commercially, when you go shopping, again on Oxford Street, which has literally got, you know, bang, happy Ramadan. Now, you'll have Christmas lights, fine, but a lot of the big stores there very often have things like happy winter period, happy festive season.
Happy holidays.
There seems to be a...
Americans have happy holidays, because the Americans call everything happy holidays.
There's a reluctance to say things like happy Christmas. Now, I'm not saying let's have less Ramadan and Eid. What I am saying is let's have more of the Christian stuff as well, surely.
Well, I don't disagree with you. And I think these large institutions, the BBC, some of the large corporations we've seen out today, you know, they are fearful. They are fearful of offending people who wouldn't be offended at all if a large institution came out and said, "Oh, you know, we wish everyone happy Christmas." I go back to my earlier point. People of faith love living in a country that respects all faiths. And frankly, if we respect Christianity, as a Muslim person, if you live in Britain, that will make you say, good, they respect their established faith of Christianity in the UK. That means they will respect and protect my right to be a free Muslim in Britain.
That school last week, Norwood, the school that banned Easter, I looked at some of the emails from parents to that school, and there were emails from Hindus and Sikhs saying, "What are you doing this for? We love it."
Absolutely.
They love the colourfulness of it. They love the fun of it. Their kids love. This was an.
No, it's white atheists who are the most embarrassed. Look, I think the message for politicians and public figures is make sure that your messages are appropriate. Yes, it's fine to thank people, but let's just tone down the need to tick every box every week of the year.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, all right. Well, look, hey, let us know what you think about all of that as well. I mean, it's probably not helped by the idea that there's been huge amounts of issues around two-tier justice. We've had things from the Sentencing Council, which we're going to go on and discuss, which make it seem like you can be punished for being white British, all of that stuff. So it does come off the back of all of that. But anyway, it's time now for the biggest and greatest ever Great British giveaway.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, huge news landing in the front pages, hot off the press at 10:30, and... Yeah, how did that European space project go, guys? But next, the mad story hitting the headlines this week. It's a toddler getting into trouble at school for being transphobic. I am about to blow the lid off the fact that this is an isolated incident. It's not. This is happening right across the country. Stay tuned.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Giuffre, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
First of all, are we talking about the West and the East, or is this a Western phenomenon?
Wholly Western phenomenon, which excludes China, where things are still in a healthy state.
What's happening in the West, then?
It's been going on for quite a while, and it started with the universities, and then affected the biennales conferences. Basically, it's this left drift in the sense that, as in Vogue, we should care about the downtrodden, the marginal groups, the global south, we should criticize what's going on, and there's a sense of illegitimacy with everything which now is developed in most of the real-world developments we are, for instance, doing, as being neoliberal architecture. And so the discourse is shifting away, ignoring that and saying this is fallen, this is commercial, this is compromised. And we have a discourse about another world caring and looking after those who have been discriminated against. And that pulls a discourse and critical debate away from what's going on. And therefore what's going on is bereft of critique, of exposure, of debate, and becomes a craft.
We are looking at, on the screen at the moment, at some of the great buildings that you have been involved in. So tell me about the background to these. I mean, you were one of the architects here. What was your education? What was your inspiration? What led you to create buildings that look like that?
So I was originally educated in Stuttgart, Germany. I came here as a student, went to the South Bank University in exchange program, and as a student joined Zaha Hadid, was a rising star in the field. And at that time, there was really a thriving discourse in architecture, grappling with this new world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, everybody. Does your young lad refuse to wear a dress? Does your daughter only want to play with the female Barbie doll? Well, I hate to tell you this, but your toddler is transphobic and should be suspended from nursery. In fact, you have raised a monster. Now, this might sound mental, but a toddler from nursery school was actually suspended after being accused of being transphobic or homophobic. That's according to a Telegraph investigation. Department for Education data showed that the child, who was aged 3 or 4 years old at the time, was suspended for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity. But tonight, I can reveal that this is happening right across the country. Stats show that 94 pupils at state primary schools were suspended or even permanently excluded for transphobia and homophobia between 2022 and 2023. In 2017, a Christian couple withdrew their 6-year-old son from an Isle of Wight primary school after he came home confused by a boy in his class who wore a dress and identified as a girl. They were informed by the school that their son's, quote, inability to believe a transgender person is real, female or male, could have been deemed as transphobic. Now, those very brave parents, Sally and Nigel Rowe, join me now. So thank you very, very much. Tremendous to have you on the show. So this idea that toddlers are being suspended or permanently excluded from nursery groups or schools for being, quotes unquote, transphobic is actually something that's happening right up and down the country, is it not?
It seems to be, as what you've just said earlier. This is insane. This is insane. How do 3-4-year-olds, or our child was 6 when they were at school, and the child that wanted to transition was 6 years of age, how can any child make any kind of decision like that? See, the problem, Patrick, here is the problem's not the children. The problem is the adults. And who are the teachers? Who are the people in society that are actually pushing this madness? It's absolutely crazy.
Well, it seems to be yet another example of something a bit two-tier going on. So presumably, if you wanted to educate your son and say that actually there's no such thing as being able to change genders, you are a boy or you're a girl, and that's that. Nigel and Sally, is dangerous and wrong. But if you are a different adult who decides to tell your child that they can put a frock on and go to school at the age of 6 despite having a penis, that is actively encouraged, isn't it?
It seems to be the case. And that to me is this is the tragedy of our society. What road are we going down as a society where we're pushing this stuff on such young children? When you become an adult, you choose how do you wish to live your lifestyle. But, one thing I wanted to point out was, there is guidance for schools on this. And actually the guidance for schools due to our case, which we were fighting since 2017, was actually pretty good. It was pretty good, and it sort of laid out a few important things. And I just wanted to read a few of them. The schools and colleges have specific legal duties that are framed by a child's biological sex. So any school or college, anyone, any organisation like that pushing this agenda, I think actually you'll find is outside that framework that was laid down by the government.
Absolutely. Now, Sally, can I just ask you specifically what happened with your child, though? So did you get a phone call one day or were they sent home with a letter? How did it work and what kind of interaction did you have with the school?
Well, that was the thing. We weren't really told anything. It just happened. A child announced that in circle time that they were changing from a boy to a girl, and then this was accepted. And then this happened a second time for us 2 years later with our second son, but still at the age of 6 as well. And then the boy this time was coming to school, sometimes as a girl, sometimes as a boy. So we raised our concerns on both accounts. And then the letter we received a letter just to say that if you don't treat this boy as a real female, you're transphobic. If you don't use the preferred pronouns, you won't. And the good thing is that because of this, us raising these concerns, the government guidelines also are saying that the child does not have to use the preferred pronouns. They should not be penalised for it. And yet we're still seeing this happen.
But it must be incredibly confusing for, in your case, or as it was then, a 6-year-old child, because if they have got a classmate who is changing genders every other day and they are maybe being confronted by issues by their teachers that are frankly, well, confusing for adults, let alone 6-year-old children, that if they don't seem to get it and they use the wrong pronouns and then they face suspension or expulsion, I think that could potentially have been quite damaging for your child, Nigel.
It clearly could be. I mean, and I remember when one of my boys, he came home, he said, Daddy, he actually said this, I put him to bed and he said, Daddy, I'm confused. He was 6. I'm confused. I thought we had boys and we have girls. I said, well, son, yeah, that's how it works. That's biology. We have boys and we have girls. And he just couldn't work it out. He's only 6 years of age. I mean, it's pretty obvious, sometimes when kids get changed, don't they? Girls have vaginas and boys have penises. I mean, it's biologically there. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff, isn't it? But we as adults are telling that children that they can change gender. I mean, actually, it's got that further. And it was like I was like a prophet back at the time in 2017. Because I remember I was interviewed by the BBC and I said, well, what was happening next? We're going to identify as, children identify as animals. And guess what?
Oh, hell.
Children identifying as furries. I mean, how far is this going to go?
Yeah, well, with kids identifying as furries, I believe from memory that one child wanted to identify as the moon, and that had to be fine. That had to be fine. But for the furries, I mean, what next? Are you going to introduce a litter tray at the back of the class and just allow them to use it? It does sound remarkable. But Sally, parents around the country now are clearly in a situation where their toddler or young child might be permanently excluded from either nursery or school. And that must put you as parents in an awkward situation because, well, where do you send them then? Do you, obviously in your case now, homeschool, fair enough. I think that we're going to see a big rise in that. But, your lives can be ruined because, you send your child to the local school, they get turfed out of there, pun intended, and then they end up, at home with you. It seems remarkable.
It does. And we see these, we were actually really shocked at these statistics that came out in the papers today. And you're thinking, we don't hear about what the parents are staying quiet. I guess they feel too worried about speaking out about it, and probably we can say we understand why. But we just think we want to encourage these parents to speak out because the more people that do speak out about this, then hopefully more people will. Because I think most parents will agree with what we think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most teachers do, and yet they're being treated in this way. And I say,
the thing is, there is a fear in the culture. I mean, look what's happened with the parents when the police turned up. Well, there's 6 sort of East German Stasi police turn up at the door for parents that are questioning school policy. I mean, this is complete and utter madness. Yeah. I mean. How do you deal with that? So parents are in fear that if they make a comment or they're concerned, raise these concerns, what, they're going to get arrested and put in prison?
Well, quite possibly. And not everyone is in a position of power. I mean, it's happened to people like Alison Pearson at The Telegraph or people who, you know, have some form of platform and some form of experience, maybe, in the kind of rough and tumble of these matters and an ability, therefore, to get that out there. And maybe over years in the media game, whilst it was absolutely terrible for Alison Pearson, obviously, you know, you do develop a bit of a thicker skin and you have some form of coping mechanism and people are going to bat for you. But if you are just like two people who work at a bakery in Slough or something, and 6 police officers knock on your door out of the blue one day, you'd be absolutely bricking it. And then word goes around as well, doesn't it? Unfortunately, I haven't got time to get into this now, so sorry about this, but word goes around, doesn't it? If their child's transphobic or if the child's racist, well, they must be getting it from the parents, mustn't they? And then that puts this ridiculous mark over certain people's households, because ultimately a 3 or 4-year-old child didn't quite get the fact that actually some other child wants to turn up wearing a dress. I find it absolutely astonishing. But guys, look, thank you. I would love to sit down and actually do a much longer form thing, not least because I'd like to come to the Isle of Wight at some point as well. So I will see you both at some point soon, hopefully. But you take care. All right, God bless. All the best. All the very best. Thank you. That's Sally and Nigel Rowe. They're well done them for standing up for their child, their beliefs as well, and sticking their head above the parapet, because it's not easy. It comes with consequences. But coming up in just a moment. Yeah, well done, Germany. Great success there at a rocket launch. But next, tomorrow's newspaper front pages, hot off the press. And some breaking news tonight about Marine Le Pen in France and two-tier justice in Britain. Is it good news, frankly, for white people who find themselves in court? Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. We'll see some sunshine, a few showers across the western Mediterranean on Tuesday. Thundery showers the further east you go. So for the Canaries, Madeira and Portugal, a mixture of sunshine, a few showers. Plenty of sunshine across much of Spain, and then we run into some very unsettled weather across central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean. Some thundery downpours here could give a few flooding issues in places. Things do improve in the east over the coming few days, but we'll see showers then developing further west.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Giuffre, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Patrick Christys Tonight, only on GB News. It's time now for all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. So, the Daily Telegraph goes with Trump, no free trade without free speech. Britain's tariff deal may hinge on the case of pro-life activist arrested for a peaceful protest. I'll just delve into this quickly. So, in a highly unusual step, the US State Department issued a statement saying it was concerned about freedom of expression in the United Kingdom in relation to the case of an anti-abortion campaigner. All right, let's go to the Metro. Andrew accuser, 4 days to live. Virginia's Instagram post after 70-mile-per-hour car crash smash. So, well, yes, I mean, obviously, hopefully she's actually got longer to live than that, but that's Virginia Giuffre, who claims that she's got a few days left to live. The Eye, defiant Rayner tells UK firms, my new rights for workers will help the economy. Deputy Prime Minister hits back at criticism from business groups about employment's rights bill. The Sun have got a corker of a front page here. It's soft touch UK. Dinghy migrants free hotel room brag, while Brits bills rocket by $4.5 grand, taking us for fools. Migrants are boasting about being put up in taxpayer-funded hotels, and the bills are paid for by hard-up Brits. This, of course, again, is the boast on TikTok. It's just yet another advert. A killer blow for Keir Starmer, who today tried to claim that he deported 24,000 people. It turns out that apparently only 6,300 of them were actually enforced deportations. The rest of them just wanted to leave, or we encouraged them. The Guardian, furious...
It's like the Rwanda plan.
There it is. Furious Le Pen rails against ban on running for French presidency. The Guardian call her far-right leader found guilty of embezzling funds. So, those are this round of front pages for you. I also just want to read out a story that has landed just seconds ago on social media. Now, I'm going to read this out to you. It says, Iranian military forces have called for a preemptive strike on the joint UK-US base in Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands amid reports that President Trump could launch a strike on Iran from there. So I'll just read that to you again. According to the Telegraph, Iranian military forces have called for a preemptive strike on the joint UK-US Diego Garcia base in the Chagos Islands amid reports that President Trump could launch a strike on Iran from there. Just quickly on this, I am aware that sometimes news stories for tomorrow arrive online earlier, and it is April Fool's Day tomorrow, but I don't think that's the kind of thing you do.
No, I don't think you do an April Fool's.
Gag on that. So, look...
Not if you want to keep your job.
So, yeah. So, Jake, quickly, what do you make of that, then?
Well, it shows, doesn't it, how strategically important Diego Garcia is to the United Kingdom and to the United States, and frankly, it shows the insanity of Keir Starmer deciding to give it away. In fact, paying Mauritius to take it.
To keep it.
To Mauritius to give it away to Mauritius, paying them to take it away.
To ensure we can still use it.
I don't think we owned it. Don't have to worry about whether we could use it or not. He's given it away, and they go,
Dubiously under international law.
Do you mind? Do you mind if we can keep it for a little bit? I don't think the Mauritian Navy is going to be sailing to our rescue
Well, this is it. I mean, so conceivably, we could, Matthew, genuinely, if these reports are true and Iran decide to launch an attack on these bases, we could be paying Mauritius to be in ultimate control of these islands, which we then have to defend ourselves from the Iranians.
Well, we are renting them back from the Mauritians. I mean, look, I don't think the deal's perfect, but do you know who endorsed it? President Trump. And so who am I to argue with President Trump?
Yes, OK. This just seems absolutely bonkers. Again, this is breaking news tonight that Iran might launch a strike on the Chagos Islands, quotes, immediately. Carol, I mean, this is. Man, what do we do about this?
Is it potentially the start of World War III?
Yeah, could over a bit of over some territory that we are going to pay to give away to lease back.
And where's the info or the intel come from that Trump is going to launch a strike? It's the first anyone's ever heard of it. We haven't. I mean, these things get leaked out, don't they? I mean, Trump would tell you that's what he's thinking to do, and he tells what the others going to do, and we've not heard anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the danger is because Trump is unstable in the sense of you don't know what he's going to do next.
He might hit back.
You know, he won't be exactly a measured response. I'm not sure I wanted Trump in charge in the Cuban Missile Crisis. Just put it like that. You know, in terms of brinkmanship.
But this is potentially very serious, Jake.
I'd say it could potentially see the start of a wider conflict, particularly in the East. I think we should all be really worried about this, but I go back to my main point, which is this is a strategically important asset and not one we should be giving away.
It's a case of, when the Falklands kicked off, we gave the impression to the Argentinians that we didn't care about the Falkland Islands. And so they thought, I'll have a bang on that. And they did. And then we ended up going in to defend it. And obviously loads of people, mostly Argentinians, lost their lives. Many British service personnel as well, of course. And we ended up taking them back. Is this not history repeating itself? We've given the impression to the world that we don't give a toss.
No, we haven't.
No,
Patrick, we haven't.
Iran has gone, all right, then we'll bomb them.
Patrick, we haven't, because what we've said is they're so important, we want to ensure their future for the next 99 years. Now, the mechanism for doing that is controversial.
When David Cameron was Foreign Secretary, he got the same advice that went to David Lammy saying, under international law, there's an advisory...
You mean he contradicted the earlier Tory decision by James Cleverly?
There's an advisory judgment that you should give this away. And David Cameron went, no, we're not doing it. Same advice, new Foreign Secretary, David Lammy. So there you go, have it. Not only that, we'll pay you to take it off our hands.
He didn't do that. What he did is he put it on freeze because James Cleverly, the previous Tory Foreign Secretary, was going to do the same deal.
Today, Keir Starmer's friend, Philippe Sands, who's been representing Mauritius, I believe, in the Chagos Islands thing, was interviewed by Emily Maitlis, and he parroted that same line that a load of UN judges, international judges, have said that Britain has absolutely no stake on the Chagos Islands whatsoever, that they're nothing to do with ours, that we've basically been squatting there. It's almost like colonialism, OK? And now Keir Starmer might be in the ridiculous position where we go to war with Iran because they've attacked a bit of territory that he's been trying to give away. Carol, it's just mad.
It is mad. I don't know what else to say about it. It is mad, and if it happens, as you just said, it could be the start of something.
But why should we defend it? I mean, are the human rights lawyers like Philippe Sands, etc., are they all going to be
fight?
Are they all going to be saying that we need to defend these islands? Should we just give them to the Iranians?
No, of course we should win. They're a very important strategic base.
What starts with the Chagos Islands will then go to Gibraltar, and you'll have lawyers representing the Spanish government saying the British have as much right to Gibraltar as they do to the Chagos Islands. It's part of the former British Empire.
With Keir Starmer, seriously now, if it is... I mean, I appreciate that we're getting several steps ahead of ourselves here.
Gibraltar is not going to be given back to the Spanish.
Look, if it kicks off over the Chagos Islands and we end up having things like conscription in this country, people are going to turn around and say, why on earth are you sending my son to go and fight and die in a war that started over a bit of territory that you seem to not give a toss about? Find it remarkable. But anyway...
Let's hope it doesn't come to that.
And like I said, we are a few steps away.
Yes.
But anyway, look, we were...
Don't have nightmares.
We were going to be talking about a remarkable revelation when it comes to two-tier sentencing in Britain. I will do that and reveal the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages when I come back, so stay tuned.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. If you enjoyed the sunshine today, well, there's more to come tomorrow and indeed for the next few days. A bit fresh first thing tomorrow morning, but feeling warm by the afternoon. It's not been sunny everywhere today. We've had this weather front, which is now clearing away from northern Scotland, but high pressure has generally been dominant and it will continue to control our weather, bringing many places clear skies overnight. Quite a lot of cloud earlier across Northern Ireland. That's now moving away and the cloud breaking up across Scotland. Increasing reducing chance of some mist and low cloud, maybe a bit of fog forming over parts of the Midlands and eastern England, where temperatures will dip down close to freezing to 3 or 4 Celsius. That's in towns and cities. A bit milder across the southwest, where there will again be a fairly noticeable breeze blowing tomorrow. And it will be a bit breezier around the coasts of Scotland, perhaps just a little bit of ha on the east coast at first, and maybe some cloudy skies to begin with across Shetland. But generally for Scotland and Northern Ireland, far less in the way of cloud tomorrow compared to today. Could start a bit drab over parts of the Midlands, maybe northern England, some mist, low cloud, bit of fog here, maybe East Anglia too, but any mist and fog should clear certainly by mid-morning. And then we're looking at, well, spectacular spring sunshine, really almost wall to wall. There will be a chilly breeze blowing across southern England and South Wales, and a bit breezy across western Scotland, Northern Ireland, and perhaps still on the east coast too. And if that breeze is coming in from the North Sea, you'll notice it. Temperatures pegged back as a result. But inland, in the sunshine, 17, 18 degrees, maybe a touch warmer across the northwest of Scotland. Similar day on Wednesday. Again, most places fine and with lots and lots of sunshine. Still a bit breezy in the south and a bit more of a breeze maybe on some of those North Sea coasts. Just a threat of some of that low cloud drifting in. That's going to be more of a feature later in the week, but look at that. Plenty of sunshine and feeling warmer for most Wednesday and Thursday.
Welcome back. Let's just rattle through the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Times, Trump's tariffs will hit Britain, admits the Prime Minister. The Daily Mail, two-tier police race guide row. Official report by Chief Constables tells officers racial equity does not mean treating everyone the same. The Mirror, they've got yet another Gary Glitter exclusive. Pop pedo bankrupt. Glitter's victim's victory. Lots of alliteration there in that headline, which is how you know it's good. OK, so there's been dramatic events across the Channel today because Front National leader Marine Le Pen has been found guilty of embezzling EU funds in order to fund her party. Le Pen has been sentenced to 4 years in prison, which has been suspended, has been fined €100,000 and been banned from politics for 5 years, which means that she will be ineligible to stand for president at the next election in 2027. Tonight she's come out swinging. She says she's not going to be silenced. Loads of people are tweeting "Je suis Marine." Just let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening on this. What do you think about this Marine Le Pen embezzlement row then? Is this another kind of Trump-esque silencing attempt?
Well, I think it is, and it's, you know, the French have got quite a long history of prosecuting leading politicians for corruption. In every other case, the ban on standing in public office, which is not unusual, has started as soon as the entire appeal process is over. If that had applied here, she would have been able to stand in the 2027 French elections. The fact that it hasn't smacks of them wanting to close her and debate down.
Well, this does look quite bad, doesn't it, really, the idea of silencing Marine Le Pen?
I mean, the thing is, it will have totally the opposite effect because her party will now romp home in the next election, even if she's not standing. The party will. She says it's a political decision, and she's absolutely right. You know, because France is terrified of her in the same way that Labour is terrified of reform in this country. Exactly the same thing. So they will do anything to silence her.
I think the rules have got to apply to her just like they apply to anybody else. And, you know, she's been caught with her own...
They've changed the rules. That's the point, Matthew. They have changed the rules. Well, there are dozens of cases where they say the ban only starts after your final appeal.
So you honestly think that basically in France...
Matthew, I would go further. Okay. I think we will be... If I was Nigel Farage and I saw this, I'd be really nervous. I think we could find ourselves sat on this sofa in a couple of years. You may shake your head, Matthew. I prefer to wait and see who's proved right. I think we could be a couple of years. Are you
encouraging the deep state to go to some European expenses?
Look, we've got to put ourselves on because I wanted to bring you this. I mean, look, this amazing feat of human engineering. Do you remember SpaceX, NASA, bringing these astronauts back from space in one piece? I mean, gosh, it's remarkable, isn't it, what we're capable of?
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
SpaceX there, showing the world what is possible with cutting-edge space technology, really demonstrating American innovation at its finest. Oh, it just brought a tear to my eye broadcasting that live. Well, the Europeans have had a go. Let's see how the Germans got on. There's always next time, I suppose, isn't there?
You have to wonder how much that cost, that little exercise.
Yeah.
I remember when SpaceX
Multi-millions.
managed to vertically land its first rocket, back to Earth, which is an extraordinary feat of engineering. It was about the same time as the European Union launched their new policy that Coke or other beverages had to keep the cap attached to it.
irritating.
That's what Europe should
That's
stick
what
to.
Europe...
Can I just say...
Look, you can't because we're finished. I'm afraid up next, it's Headliner.
Silence
Make sure you
again.
stay tuned to that. Thank you for a great show, everybody.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. If you enjoyed the sunshine today, well, there's more to come tomorrow and indeed for the next few days. Bit fresh first thing tomorrow morning, but feeling warm by the afternoon. It's not been sunny everywhere today. We've had this weather front, which is now clearing away from northern Scotland, but high pressure has generally been dominant and it will continue to control our weather, bringing many places clear skies overnight. Quite a lot of cloud earlier across Northern Ireland. That's now moving away and the cloud breaking up across Scotland. Increasing chance of some mist and low cloud, maybe a bit of fog forming over parts of the Midlands and eastern England, where temperatures will dip down close to freezing to 3 or 4 Celsius. That's in towns and cities. A bit milder across the southwest, where there will again be a fairly noticeable breeze blowing tomorrow. And it will be a bit breezier around the coasts of Scotland, perhaps just a little bit of ha on the east coast at first, and maybe some cloudy skies to begin with across Shetland. But generally for Scotland and Northern Ireland, far less in the way of cloud tomorrow compared to today. Could start a bit drab over parts of the Midlands, maybe northern England, some mist, low cloud, bit of fog here, maybe East Anglia too, but any mist and fog should clear certainly by mid-morning. And then we're looking at, well, spectacular spring sunshine, really almost wall to wall. There will be a chilly breeze blowing across southern England and South Wales, and a bit breezy across western Scotland, Northern Ireland, and perhaps still on the east coast too. And if that breeze is coming in from the North Sea, you'll notice it. Temperatures pegged back